Years ago, I'm on the river with Hicks, and I guess one thing that was frustrating about golf is if you don't know me very well, and I know a lot of you guys, this is your first Sunday, and you probably will never come back again. But I'm a very social person. I love to meet people. Uh, Pretty much all the time. I talked to a guy who's a dog handler, canine dog handler, and from Havre. He's going to move back to upstate New York. He's got 3 kids, beautiful wife. I could probably give you way too much information. But that's just the way I am. And honestly, when you golf, they don't like it when you start talking to them. It's like, so fishing was much better because you can talk and fish. And the fish don't care. And you can get to know the people around you. If they don't want to talk, you can throw them off your boat and leave them. See ya. So, me and Steve were out on my boat. We're fishing, and whenever we go out, we talk theology because he grew up a real in a goofy religion that really is just wrong. And so everything about Christianity was brand new to him. And so we got to talk about Christianity, about believing in God, we would talk about evolution, and he goes, God's God. If he wanted to evolve people, he could because he's smart enough. I think he probably started it all because he never read Genesis in his life. And I go, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and then he, created man from the dust of the earth. Then he kissed it into him or breathed in him the breath of life, and he made him in his own image, and his creation. Well, Steve goes, he's going because he's an evolutionist, scientist, crazy, smart dude, and he's going, well, I've never ever thought about that. But I go, if God's God, and if he wanted to choose that to create people, and if he wanted to use that, I said, I think God could do whatever God wanted to do. So he had this concept that God is God and he was not, and God is so big, he's not understandable, and he can do whatever he wants. And I go, that is so true. And as we're talking about addictions, as we're talking about life, there's a verse in the book of Proverbs, chapter 26, verse 11. And as I teach through the Bible, we're in the Proverbs now, we mentioned this verse while on the river. It says, as a dog returns to its vomit, so a fool repeats his foolishness. Did you guys get that? Let me read this to you one more time. Proverbs 26:11 says, as a dog returns to its vomit, so a fool repeats his foolishness. How many of you guys have dogs? Raise your hands. How many of you guys are dog lovers? Some people drop their hands. Dog's in a bad place. Yeah, I gotta live with these people, man. I don't know what to do. So, how many of you guys have ever had your dog puke? How many of you have had the dogs clean up their own vomit? Isn't that amazing? Just let him do it. They're like, you don't have to then. Oh, look, he's cleaning it up. Then put him outside, let him do it out there. Anyways, as Steve and I were talking about that verse, this is a Steve Hicks quote. This is from nobody else. This is Steve Hicks. He goes, isn't it amazing that people return to the familiar? You should write this down. Put underneath it, quote, Steve Hicks. People return to the familiar even if the familiar is bad. Even if the familiar is evil. Even if the familiar is wrong. Even if the familiar is life-threatening. Isn't that amazing? We return to foolishness even when we know we shouldn't. Solomon, even people who are far from God, no religious background at all, have heard of the name Solomon because he makes skis. Okay, no. Because he had like a bazillion women. And he was a bazillionaire. He was the richest person on the planet. That's Solomon. So even in the regular history books, it talks about Solomon. And if you're Solomon's kid, you would observe your dad. Most sons and daughters observe their parents. Some of you guys have good parents. Some of you have parents that they're like right there. Some of you have parents that you go, I got to parent my parents because they're so bad. And I've learned this over years. Not all parents are great. Some parents really suck. They should have their kids removed. And sometimes it happens. Because they're so narcissistic, they forgot they even made these things, and they just kind of hang out in their house. Or wherever. And, but no matter if you're a good parent, a mediocre parent, a bad parent, a great parent, no matter where you're at as a parent, your kids observe you. They want you. They mimic you. That is the truth of being a parent. And so you got this guy named Solomon who, at one time in his life, his dad, his name is David. He was the second child born to Bathsheba. Bathsheba's first child died, and God took that child. David mourned, and then he has Solomon. And he has a few other kids, but Solomon is chosen to be the next king. And Solomon observed his dad David. And his dad David had affairs, was a murderer, but was king, was in complete control of a nation. But he watched his dad David, and when his dad David was close to God, he saw the greatness, the goodness, the holiness, the righteousness of a man that governed a nation, Israel. And it was good. So when Solomon steps into the role of king of Israel, he asks God, he prays and he asks God after making 1,000 burnt offerings to God in 1 Kings chapter 3, and he says, God, I want $1 million. I don't want, a huge house. But I want wisdom. I want to know how I can tell everybody what is right and what is wrong. What is right, what is wrong. I listened to Lil speak the Wednesday I was gone. She made a real observant comment about our society today. She made a comment and she said, the strange thing is today, nobody knows what's right or wrong. And matter of fact, we've decided what is wrong is soon to be right. And I find it interesting that we return to the familiar, even if the familiar is wrong. Sometimes we think sin is right when it's really wrong. And all Solomon asked of God, he said, God, here's what I need. I got all these people to rule over. I just want to know what's right, what's wrong, and the wisdom to make the right decision. What a phenomenal prayer. And we see in the Bible, the text tells us that God speaks to him from heaven. And he says, here's the deal. You didn't ask for riches. You didn't ask for self-glory. You didn't ask for any kind of earthly thing. All you asked for, which is pretty amazing, was to help me share with my people what is right and what is wrong, and wisdom. In the first few years, because he was a very young man during that time, so the first few years after that, when we read the Kings and we read history, Solomon was a world changer. Queen of Sheba comes and visits him. Queen of Sheba brings a bankload of gold and silver. Agriculturally, brings him new seeds, brings him camels, brings him horses, brings him cattle, and just brings, just so she can sit down and talk to Solomon. Because they know Solomon has the hand of God on him, and everything he's touched is blessed. During this period, what happens is people want to make peace with Israel. So kings start bringing their daughters. And Solomon, oh, okay, sure. I guess this is the thing to do. And next thing you know, the kids observe their dad heading south. And Solomon all of a sudden thinks, and I'll tell you what our greatest fault is, your greatest fault, my greatest fault, is when we think we know it all. When we think we can run our own life. When success goes to our head and we forget who God is. We get money, we get a little power, and we think we're something. Solomon had it all. And next thing you know, Solomon steps way out of bounds. His kids observe this. But Solomon writes down these proverbs and a few others. And in the proverbs, he tells his kids, because even if you're a bad person, you can be a good example of what not to do, right? Did you hear that? Even if you're bad, you can be a good example of how not to live. And some of you guys go, oh, that's me. Okay. Anyways, the book of Proverbs is written by Solomon and a few other, King Lamech and a few others, to his son, and this is it. It's a book of instructions on how you should act. There's 31 Proverbs. Proverbs a day keeps the devil away. Everybody say that. Proverbs a day keeps the devil away. You can read one Proverbs a day. And I'm going to tell you something right now. It's pretty amazing, the truth that you will find, that you will glean from the book of Proverbs. Every day, if you read one chapter, you'll find one or two little sayings that'll go, that's all I needed. That's all I needed. What is wisdom? Because he says the beginning, to fear God is the beginning of wisdom. To fear God. Well, what's that word, to fear God? I remember asking this many Bible studies I had. What does it mean to fear God? And one goes, well, to revere God. To know that he is holy and he is just and he's so far up there. And that when you think about it, you shake. You're in fear. Afraid. And I'm like, you know, you should be in fear of God. Because it says he gives life, he takes life. You know, there should be a little bit of that holy buckets. God is going to spank me. And when he spanks you, you go around the world. Just whoop. You guys don't know what it's like to get spanked. I do. I was in the spanking generation. 60s and 70s. Belts. Bend over. Pull your pants down. We all have like 3 cracks in our butts. Because we got spanked so much. You guys don't even know what that's like. Now they don't spank. Man, I got a wailing every night. Why? Because I was a bad kid. You know, my sisters would go, Kenny's going to get beat. And I would try to hide. Because the fear that we had as kids was a saying. Because we knew when mom, and you knew, you guys, your moms are wimps today. Our moms were tough in the 60s and 70s. They beat you anyways. But after they beat you, they would look at you and they say, somebody said it, wait till your dad gets home. And Dad was just like a robot. He never asked us what we did. You know, we didn't like get to have a jury trial. We didn't like take the brothers and sisters in. No, this is what happened. No, it was just get upstairs, pull down your pants, bend over, belt came off, whack, whack, whack. And then it was over. All right, get downstairs. We're going to eat dinner now. And we're like, you know, we're scarred for life. That was it. So honestly, when I read the book, You Should Be in Fear of God, I think, yes, I should be in fear of God. I love my dad, but I had fear for my dad. Just the fear alone for my dad kept me from sinning sometimes. I would think to myself, if I get caught, I may die. No, seriously, you guys are laughing. That's the truth. If I get caught, I may die. I will not be able to sit for like a long time. And that was fear. And, you know, I don't want you to go home and beat your kids. I used to go home and beat Matt when I got done from youth group. Matt, come here, I gotta spank you out because those kids never got whooped. You need a whooping. Just for stuff you did that I didn't see. I didn't do that, but I used to tell my wife, I used to tell her, we gotta beat our kids because there's some idiots out in the world. And then I think there's that representation of fear that says, hey, God is God. And he is really in control. And I look at the universe, and I remember when all three kids of mine born, I would just cry. I go, man, that is the coolest thing in the world. You know, God is God, and he made this beautiful, beautiful, earth for us to enjoy, this itty-bitty blue planet. God is so, so, so big, and he let us live here. Then he created all this beautiful nature around us, and the colors, our eyes, they're just pleasant to look at. None of them are repulsive. They're all beautiful. We get to live in the mountains. We have beautiful green trees, and everything is so beautiful. And that's what God made for us. And we should just go, man, God is good. God is just so good. And so Solomon is going, man, maybe I haven't been the best at it. And you have seen me make some terrible mistakes, but I want you to know this, kids. He says, the fear of the Lord is the foundation of true knowledge. And the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. But he wants you to say, but fools despise wisdom. I didn't say knowledge. I said wisdom. Because I believe wisdom is putting knowledge to use. Wisdom is putting knowledge to use. I was down in West Yellowstone Friday with Steve, and we were at the place where the what are those hot shooters? What are those called? Smoke jumpers. Where the smoke jumpers prepare their chutes during the fire season. And we were nosy and we were walking around. And it's a cool building. And we found this saying on the wall, and I took a picture of it because it's so applied for what I was teaching today. It says this: history is knowledge. Listen, history is knowledge that can become wisdom if applied in the present tense. Isn't that good? History is knowledge that can become wisdom if applied in the present tense. And all that's saying is we can know about history, but if we can put it to use in the present tense, then it becomes wisdom. And wisdom is not just knowledge, it's putting it to use. What really used to irritate me in Bible college 4 years is I met theologians, guys that have doctorates and PhDs now, and they're good guys, but I remember going to Bible college, and they knew so much. They studied the Bible a lot better than I did. I read what I had to. I wasn't real keen on reading back then, so I just read what I had to, which was way too much to begin with, but I read it. Because when you pay for college, you actually want to pass, right? How many of you guys had to pay for college? Some of you guys, your parents did or whatever, but if you have to pay anything, you're like, dog, I'm paying for this. I better not screw up, otherwise I got to pay for it again. So, does anybody know where I was going with this? Are you guys with me at all? So anyways, I met these guys that I was in Bible college with, and as I said earlier, I've always had a passion for people. I like people, so fishing was better than golfing because I could talk. Nobody gets mad at me. Well, the fly fishermen do, because I drive by them in circles in my jet boat just to irritate. Anyways, it's just who I am. So, but I met these theologians, I call them bookheads, because they knew so much of the Word of God. Listen, they knew so much of the Word of God, but they didn't love anybody. They were afraid to hang out with people who were far from God. If you smoked, they didn't know what to do with you. If you had a beer, they would go, oh, they're having a beer. I would have a beer just to take them off. I didn't start drinking until I was 48. And that's the first full beer I had. And now I'm a half a beer guy, right, man? I can only drink a half a beer. That's it. I'm like, oh, give me a Coke. That's why I like the NCAA tournament. Coke cans. Ooh, that was bad. Coca-Cola. When you read the book of Proverbs, it's wisdom. It's wisdom. It's taking what God has taught you, however big, however small, and then putting feet to it. That's wisdom. Solomon told his son in chapter 2, you don't have to go there. He said, son, he said, I want you to seek out wisdom like you would look for gold. How many of you guys like that show, Gold Diggers? No, that's the wrong one. That's another show. Gold Rush, yeah. Gold Diggers, that's a whole nother episode of something. How many of you guys like Gold Rush? How many of you guys have ever panned for gold? Raise your hands. I've panned for gold. With my brother Steve Hicks. He brings out this thing that separates rocks from sand, you know. And we're on the Missouri River and we're panning for gold. Now, this is what we look like. Wait, I'll have to go up here. This is what we look like. We look like this. And we're trying to breathe. And when you're fat and you bend over, your fat shoves all the air out of your diaphragm and you can't breathe. And my nephew is fishing and catching fish, and we're panning for gold, dying. And we're like, how does that fat guy, Todd Hoffman, do this? Oh, yeah, he gets other people to do it. And so we're panting. We did it for about a half hour, and we're like, all right, we're just fishing. Back. You know, we've never panned for gold again. Now, I talked to Steve about this, and we're laughing. He goes, I got a dredge now. I go, what? Yeah, we're too fat. I got a thing to just suck up the dirt. We'll run it through a sluice box and become millionaires. Yeah, whatever. So Solomon says to his son, son, look for wisdom as you would for gold. Because if we found gold, I'd probably be about 150. You know, because I'd be out there all the time. We're going to find. But we didn't, so I'm still 220. Proverbs chapter 3. These verses you should have underlined in your Bible. Not just 26:11, but Proverbs chapter 3, verses 4 and 5. I know they're familiar texts. We're going to end with this. We're going to do communion next week. We're running out of time. Are you guys okay with that? All right. Yep. No doubt. We got a vote of confidence to close her early. Wow. Amen. Let me. I don't know who said, but let me just finish with these two verses, and then we'll go home. Okay. I'm going to start reading. No, we're not going to do it. I'm serious. No. Oh, yeah, we got to do songs. Sorry, I thought you guys were going to pass out communion. No, that little girl's going to kill me. She's going to take me out. So, I got to start reading in verse 3. It says, never let loyalty and kindness leave you. Tie them around your neck as a reminder. Write them deep within your heart. Ain't that a good verse? That's a good verse. You should have gave about $100 for coming to church just for that one verse. If you didn't, make sure you see Jim Brown in the back and give him the money. Never let loyalty and kindness leave you. Tie them around your neck as a reminder. Write them deep within your heart. Then you will find favor with both God and people, and you will earn a good reputation. And there's nothing wrong, worse than a bad reputation, right? Nothing worse. Here's the two key verses for all of us. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. You're going to find that in the book of Proverbs. He tells his son, seek wisdom, seek counsel, seek good advice, seek godly advice. Do not think you're right all the time, because you're not. Seek his will in all you do, and he will show you where to go. Two great verses.